Hello televiewers, pleased to have you once again tuned to your channel Afrique Media this afternoon and on the program Views on the Continent as we elaborate on what's making news in the African continent. And today our topic is related to Cameroon and the adoption of the Decentralization Bill, a bill that has been talked about or mentioned during the major national dialogue ending or early October this year. And now recently on Wednesday we have the members of parliament who adopted the bill of decentralization, meaning henceforth there will be no appointment of mayors and delegates by the head of state in the country. This, we should note, comes amidst a lot of pressure from the restive English-speaking regions of the country, that's the northwest and the southwest regions, and a lot of interrogations regarding the special status that has been said, or that the president said was going to be granted to these English-speaking regions of the country. And within the plenary session that held in November this year, that's the last session of the parliament, they talked about bringing in or adopting the bill on bilingualism across the national territory, and equally the granting of a special status, which is also under review. But on Wednesday, what's making news and what brings us this afternoon is the decentralization bill that has been passed and adopted by the parliament. And this, now we are going to look at it to get to know your own opinion or your analysis regarding this bill that was adopted by the parliament on Wednesday. What you think and how it is going to go a long way in the country Cameroon, and how it's going to solve the problem that has been eating up the English-speaking regions of the country for the past 2 to 3 years in Cameroon. So on Views on the Continent this afternoon, we have in our company Mr. Teguia Pascal Blaise. He is the secretary, or he is the national secretary of communication for the Peuple Intègre pour le Changement. That is a political party in the country Cameroon, and he is equally very resourceful person, a human rights member of the United Nations. So we have in our presence this afternoon Mr. Teguia Pascal Blaise. Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, Rita. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I really believe this is a wonderful topic. But before that, let's just greet all our millions of televiewers all around the world. Start maybe in Spanish for our viewers from Equatorial Guinea. So, buenas tardes. Estamos juntos ahora. Estamos para ver qué solución por Camerún, porque tú sabes, Camerún pasa más mal momentos. Je dis aussi bonsoir à tous nos téléspectateurs qui sont des millions. C'est vraiment un plaisir d'être avec vous sur Afrique Media. But tonight, I think we are going to talk about a wonderful topic, which is really an issue we've been thinking about all around the world, that Cameroon is not going good, is not getting better. But are we now really trying to settle the issue, decentralization? For how long I've been talking? The next thing I would like to say, Rita, is that I feel that you are very soft, because we talk of 2 to 3 years. We are going to the 4th year of what is going on. 4th year in Nosso, what is getting better? 20% of our country is in a very difficult, very bad situation. We have 3,000 deaths, over 500 deaths among the soldiers, which is something really, this is costly for a country. On our economy, cocoa, coffee and all, we've got not to be soft. We've got to look at the things as they are. Now we are talking of decentralization as if it was a topic of yesterday. We've been talking about these things for a long time. Now we pass it, right? We pass it at the assembly. That's good. It's passed through the assembly. We are talking of bilingualism. We talk of these things as if laws could settle the issues between people. As a human rights militant for a long time, right at the beginning of this issue, we said, as we missed the dialogue between those who were claiming some rights, and we thought that by force we can do things, we are going to troubles. And when you go to troubles, issues just carry on happening until what we'll be talking maybe later on, if you have time, about the issue of Bororos. This come up when there is an issue of trouble. Everyone who has a situation will going to bring it up. We never had any problem on that side. You know, I live in Northwest Rita before.
Though many may think that this problem concerns mainly the English-speaking regions of the country, which is 20% of Cameroon, because we have 2 regions, 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon, that's the northwest and the southwest regions. But this problem that is affecting the country doesn't only affect the English-speaking regions of the country, and we are going to unveil it in the course of this program, talking of the boroughs that are also coming up with their own complaint and saying they are victims in this situation, which many people are already concerned. But then, to all those that are just joining us now, we are talking of Cameroon and the decentralization bill that has been adopted by the National Assembly. Laurencia Loom got details of a report that tells us more about this decentralization bill. Then we will be back in the studio. Let's take a listen. Can we get the report by Laurencia Loom?
Since the onset of the Anglophone crisis that was sparked by a lawyers and teachers strike in October 2016, life has never been the same in Cameroon's two English-speaking regions. Insecurity has been on the rise since then, with many lives being lost on a daily basis. Fear has gripped a greater part of the population, most of whom have moved to neighboring regions to seek refuge from the violence that is ongoing in the northwest and southwest regions. Several calls have been made both locally and internationally for the government to find a lasting solution to the crisis that has displaced thousands from their homes. It is in this light that the head of state, President Paul Biya, on September 10 called for a major national dialogue to brainstorm and seek a solution to the crisis. The major national dialogue that ran from September 30 to October 4, 2019 in its final report arrived at some major resolutions, amongst which was decentralization and local development. In arriving at this resolution, it was thought that a special status will be granted to the northwest and southwest regions. Nearly 2 months after the dialogue, there have been a lot of anticipation and speculation as to how the decentralization process will unfold and what kind of special status will be granted to the two English-speaking regions. Members of Parliament finally broke the suspense on Wednesday, December 18, when Cameroon's lawmakers passed a bill that will grant special status to the two crisis-hit Anglophone regions in an attempt to ease almost 3 years of violence. If finally approved by the Senate, the western areas where separatists are fighting government troops will be able to develop their own education and justice policies, among other things. Meanwhile, the draft law that seeks to render effective the decentralization process in Cameroon is currently under scrutiny at the Senate after the National Assembly on Wednesday adopted it, defended by the Minister of Decentralization and Local Government, George Elanga Obam. The bill was adopted at the end of a plenary sitting chaired by House Speaker Kawaye Jibril. Some parliamentarians indicated that the adoption of the bill is historic and will favor the initiation of development from the base. The said draft law has on many occasions been criticized by some because of its Article 246 relating to indigenousness, notably as far as local elections are concerned. Prior to the passing of the bill, the Parliament had met in an extraordinary session on December 13, during which House Speaker Honorable Kabaye Jibril told members of Parliament that the session will focus on the decentralization code. If finally promulgated, it will, amongst other issues, serve as the foundation for the creation of a government for the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. It still remains to be determined if this is actually what indigents from the northwest and southwest regions are expecting. This will be uncovered in the days that follow by several people's reactions.
Thank you, Laurencia Loom, for that beautiful report that enlightens us and some of those that are just joining into the program. This is Views on the Continent, and we are talking Cameroon today with the National Assembly that recently adopted the bill on decentralization in the country. That is, now we are looking at this, and obviously in the course of the program, we will welcome your calls and your participations to get your views and your own opinion regarding this topic that has been tabled this afternoon in the studio in the company of our panelist, Mr. Tagia Blaise Pascal. You are the secretary of the national secretary of the political party Le Peuple Intègre pour le Changement. So talking now, before we get to you being the secretary of communication for a political party that is ahead some 2 months ahead of the legislative and municipal elections I would like to get, first of all, your own view regarding this bill that was adopted.
Right. Rita, our president, Reverend Balata, had his time with the Prime Minister, where we express our views and we put down one main point. Cameroon is in search of one word: integrity.
Yeah.
Cameroonians have lost the value of what is integrity. Cameroonians think that Cameroon is a lone country somewhere, lost somewhere, where they can do his own things, his own ways. You understand, Rita?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
To explain what I'm trying to say, you just feel everything is like a play, like a cinema. Life is not a cinema. Cinema, we go and watch a cinema when there's something, you know, as a job, to just divert ourselves after a busy day. But our lives, the future of our children, is not a cinema. It's a reality.
Yeah.
You see, we are talking of a special bill. That's a good term. That's a good word. You just have the impression sometimes that we sit down and we are away from the realities and we make our things. And our president, Reverend Balata, is a pastor, is a man of God. He brought this all to the attention of the Prime Minister when we had our time to meet him.
Okay.
Now, let me just mention a bit, when we are talking of a special bill, Rita, it's all corrupted. Allow me to say that. Why is it all corrupted? We are talking of the Article 61 and Article 62 of our Constitution. I want to look at these articles. Article 1 allows the president to make some change or whatever changes it finds necessary for the rulership of the country. You understand?
Yeah.
Article 62 is just like to complete it. You understand?
Yeah,
taking in case the specificities of every region for the good of the land. But the point is that these articles are all about giving a godly power to the president. That is, he can modify the boundaries according to his political views or tendencies, or to please his party. You understand? It is not like really the country. So when you read deeply these articles, you come to ask yourself, who wrote down these kind of articles? Where you are taking a human being to become as a god over a land. Why am I trying to say that? I'm not saying that those kind of articles should be there. They should never be there. Because, you know, the Frenchman, the Molière people, they call that garde-fou. For a man to lead a country and lead it for the good of the people, there must be garde-fou. That do not bring him to be like a god.
But Mr. Tagia, the Constitution is not written or adopted by the president.
I didn't say no. So it's actually, it may come to be if the people appointed to write the Constitution are by the president.
Okay.
Which is the case of Cameroon. Allow me, permit me, Rita, to say it. You see, because you can't have this guy, whether it's Mr. Biya, whether it's Mr. Kamto, whether it's Reverend Balata, who comes to rule this country, we have to put off.
Okay.
And you find these kinds, many of them, in our constitution, where the president is going to stand and say, the law is saying this, the law is saying that. And you see that's what the law is saying.
The law is
where it comes to be like a god in the country. We shouldn't allow a man, a human being, to become like a god to other human beings. This is not normal. That's the point, Rita, that I wanted to bring up.
But then now, looking at all of these, the bill of decentralization has been passed. What do you think? Is this what the citizens of the restive English-speaking regions actually wanted? Is this what they were expecting?
I will
as one of the outcomes of the major national dialogue.
Thank you, Rita. I will answer this in 2 points.
Yeah.
First point, the way the dialogue was set up was all wrong. We've got to acknowledge this kind of thing. You cannot talk of dialogue to bring peace among two people, but just meeting with one person. You see, Ambazonians are Cameroonians. None of us, our party pick is not out for the secession of Cameroon, to say that we have two Cameroon. But at least there are some realities that we need to respect. So first thing was the dialogue between those who have been bringing trouble. Because once on this channel, and I saw it in Google and all, I said, and people go, you went too far. I said the Ambazonians are winning the war. And I explained it. That was on Afrique Media. I said they are winning the war because they never went on the streets. They never went for all this to take power. They want to disrupt the government authority in Cameroon. And I said they are winning the war. That is more than a year ago that I said that.
Yeah.
Now, let me answer to your question for the second point, Rita.
Yeah.
You see, You cannot talk about doing good to someone when he's not involved in the solution you are trying to bring up. This is difficult. We need to see that. We need to have the courage to see that. Around Mr. Biya, we believe, might not be him only, around him, we believe there are people who don't want the good of Cameroonians. That's why we are talking of integrity. And this country has gone so much corrupted. I was sharing with a forum of men of God, telling them, starting by yourself. If the church is so corrupted, why do you expect the country to change? Why you should be the one to bring power in the country to change and bring to integrity? But our church, unfortunately, is on the same move, which is in total lack of integrity, where you have all the kinds of egoistic approach that you can believe in the country. So you understand that, to answer to your question, I don't really see how far this bill, because the second part of my answer goes again to these articles. When you look closely to these articles, Rita, is good. We've been having wonderful laws in this country. The point is to bring out the decree for implementation. The when, the how, the where. For the implementation all belong to the President of the Republic, who is put on as a god in the land. We should stop this kind of issues.
Okay.
And that's what our party is all out for.
All right. Still talking about that, do you now think that this is the priority, a bill which will benefit the whole nation rather than benefiting mostly the people of the English-speaking region? Do you think this bill is actually worthy?
You see, Rita, at PIC we don't see it like I've seen many parties talking about, like the SDF or the MRC of Mr. Kamto. They didn't go to elections because they want to see peace. For us, when the peace is not in 20% of a land, the peace is nowhere in the country. I will take a simple example. We are talking from the plateau of Afrique Media in Douala. At the moment, Rita, is there any blockage for anyone to leave northwest or southwest and come to Douala? Is there any blockage? You can have any kind of wickedness. It just enters a car, it moves, it comes. There is no blockage. So there is no area when there is no peace. There is no peace all around the country. All over the country, there is no peace. So actually, as long as we don't settle this issue, where we don't have the courage to really bring ourselves down, to know that dialogue, even if when a child expresses a need, sit down and listen to the child and say, what you are doing is wrong. Himself say, I suggest that you do this for me. And this all come down to pride. It's come down to pride. And you give me an opportunity to bring an issue about a man who went and is a late memory in this world, called Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela said the mentality of retaliation always kills, destroys a country, while the mentality of pardon, of forgetfulness and all builds up a country. And when you learn about the story of that man, you will hear that sometime before he came to take power, a man of God approached him, and for over weeks he told him, listen, you are going to have all the power over this land. Now you have all the power to reimburse to the white men all what they have been doing to you through appetite. But my friend, the only way for your own people to be happy, even though they'll be holding that power, is to go to forgiveness. When we don't have that mentality, and that's why we are saying we cannot talk of emergency, we cannot talk of the solution in this country without involving the values of God, which are biblical, whether the Cameroonians like it or not. We cannot go without that. I shared that with a man who is now out, Mr. German, who is a very close friend. I prayed with the wife when he was in jail. I told them, my friends, you have wonderful ideas, but whether you like it or not, Cameroon, if you don't go back to integrity, you are not going to bring no change, because Cameroonians have gone to a level of corruption no other country has in the world. So really, God's hands needs to come to Cameroon. All right,
God's hands needs to come to Cameroon. God's hands are always present everywhere. All right, we go now to our Facebook page to get these opinion of one of our viewers from Facebook. It says, this is a waste of time. Devolution bill enacted by Cameroon Parliament is unacceptable because Anglophone Cameroonians were not consulted. current one-day dialogue should be replaced by an honest negotiation that will result in a return to the federal system that existed prior to 1972. And he adds that former U.S. Secretary of State for African Affairs, he has a very difficult name, sorry, Matt, the name is very difficult. I can't pronounce for fear of not pronouncing it wrongly. So thank you for your opinion on our Facebook page live. You can keep sending the contributions. So you're joining us. This is Views on the Continent, and we are talking of the decentralization bill that has been passed by the Parliament. You can use the numbers that appear on your screen to call us and tell us what you think regarding this decentralization bill. And it should be noted that this comes like 3 months after the major national dialogue, where several recommendations were being tabled and awaiting the adoption by the Senate or by the Parliament. And here it comes. The decentralization bill has been adopted. Now, it comes at a moment where many have been asking the question, what about the special status? During this plenary session, the special status bill was equally forwarded to Parliament for adoption, and it is now it is now being followed up to get to adoption. But we're asking ourselves the question, this is barely 2 months to the legislative and municipal elections, and now the decentralization bill comes up. What is the place, Mr. Taguia? What is now the place of the special status which the president promised to give to the English-speaking regions of Cameroon now that the decentralization bill has been passed? Is it like trying to kick out the special status which is supposed, or which he promised to grant to the English-speaking regions?
Well, when you get to read the special status,
yeah,
and you get to understand what is, I think there are wonderful ideas also behind, because our country had been knowing certain kind of issues that are only in Cameroon. You cannot imagine a city where you have people who are ruled by a man who has been appointed from the central system. This exists nowhere else in the world. What you call the government delegate, the delegate du gouvernement. This has no meaning. This has no understanding, Rita. These are things that we have to put off. It's a shame to the rulership of a country, of modern country as Cameroon. So now, coming to your question, I believe what is expressed behind is wonderful. If the decree can come out, it can help. But still, I would still say, but will it be accepted? As I was just sharing some time ago before I come on this, this plateau, I was sharing the president, the Reverend Balata. I was just sharing with him. And he said, by his own view, this can only work if the people concerned accept it. And this is asking for humility, getting out of pride, and understanding that it's not because I'm seated in a big office in Yaoundé and I can have the bodyguards all around that the country is all okay. And that some are sitting, some are in the forest. We hear of our young ladies that to do the private time, they have to go and use bush, use herbs and all this in a modern country that has everything. So the main thing is, will they accept it? The point is not me, Rita. The point is not you. Will they accept it? On the way we put it on, will they accept it? So we need some humility move to tell the people, please, we are doing it. Let us sit down and get off. I thank God that we haven't been hearing now on television issues and all things where people stand and point them like terrorists. I've been hearing that less and less. This has almost disappeared. To say that we have terrorists on one side, we have no terrorists. We always say dialogue. Now, when you drag a human being to a certain point, you can expect every expression. You understand, Rita? I really hope that we have some few minutes to talk about the case of Borough.
Yeah, we do.
Because for me, you said something. We didn't have time to talk about that, Rita. You said, is it only an Anglophone problem? It's not an Anglophone problem. Because when we raise out these issues of federalism, you see, the man from the north is going to say, fine, I've got my special culture. The Ubamileke man is going to say, I have my special culture. And believe me, my wife is between the two regions, between northwest and southwest. It's a perfect meeting between the two. And I'll tell you that I'm not even sure that the northwest and southwest people, they will remain together. Sometime after, the Northwest is going to say, as the Southwest say to them, you are the come no go. Go back to your place. You know, so when we raise these issues, there is no country in the world which is made of one tribe. We need to avoid even that, to get the point of everyone and sit down and say together, what can we do together? I always like to raise, you give me some more minutes, Rita, to take the case of France and Germany. 74 years ago, these are enemies who kill millions between them. Now, you guys, you're saying that 74 years after, they are so much friends that they can sit down and be saying that they are together in the Union European, they love each other. There is no love in that. There's an issue of interest.
Yeah.
There's an issue of interest. Today, the Bamileke man shouldn't look at the Betty and say, I don't love you, or the Betty man shouldn't look at, I don't love you. It's a matter of interest to say, we are together, hold hand in hand. Because all is about getting as much together to win that high, I say it really, the word is well there, high competitive world that we have in this world today. That's the point. Not that you love me. It's not an issue of loving. It's an issue of common interest. So again, as I said, you take France and Germany. France and Germany will go to the point with England to take the same ship, you know, porte-avions as they call it in the French language, showing that they are together. They are not together. They have heard, they have understood that if you don't get together to be stronger, we cannot make it. It's not a matter of getting one in one side. So it's a problem that concerns all Cameroon.
The whole nation.
The whole nation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tagira. Talking still in the same light, I would like us to take a listen to this report talking on the bilingualism bill that was equally passed by the parliament last week. Then we'll be back in the studio, Director.
The controversial bill on the promotion of bilingualism submitted in Parliament by government has finally been adopted. The National Assembly has passed the bill for the use and promotion of English and French as the two official languages across the national territory, despite the quarrels and outcry from lawyers and the civil society. This bill, from whence it was introduced, had attracted and continues to attract criticism from the public. Barrister Akeremuna was the first to voice his opinion on the issue. He said it's unimaginable how any peace-loving citizen, given the present context, can propose a bill that makes bilingualism an option in blatant violation of the Constitution. According to the lawyer and civil society actor, the bill is an attempt to further fuel the crisis that has been rocking the Northwest and Southwest regions for the past 3 years. The bill, which had been on the table for lawmakers 2 weeks ago and even withdrawn for adjustment, was reintroduced and finally adopted on Tuesday with just slight changes, notably on Article 26 Sub 2, which states court's decision shall be rendered in any of the official languages, depending on the choice of the litigant and the understanding of all present in the court. However, various lawyers' associations in the Northwest and Southwest regions have described the bill as an attempt to assimilate the English-speaking minority in the country, Cameroon. The Minister of Arts and Culture, Pierre Ismail Bidunkwat, on his part, said after the adoption that the bill is an outcome of one of the main resolutions of the major national dialogue and will help strengthen the country's bilingualism. In a country that is faced with crisis for over 3 years due to the same language problem, most analysts think this is no way to a way out.
Thanks for that report that equally enlightened us on the bill on bilingualism that has also been passed in Parliament, and we are asking the question that what is actually the place for a way out of this insecurity or of this violence, this tension that is eating up deeply in the English-speaking regions of the country. And now there is this bill on bilingualism that's equally being passed when the Anglophones, or those in the English-speaking regions, say they do not want to be part of the French-speaking part of the country. And now there is this bill on bilingualism that is passed to be respected across the national territory. We are going to get to our panelist later after this caller to get his own opinion regarding this bill on bilingualism that was passed. We now get to the call center and get the caller online. Hello. We have a caller online. Hello?
From that decentralization. There has been much talk about it, and many people are saying what they can say. But, I must be very blunt here. This bill is a total waste of time. It's a total waste of time. They said desperate problems need desperate solutions. Now, when you look at the bogus bill on decentralization, 501 pages, you look at the various clauses that has to do with creation of the regional executive assembly, the House of Chiefs, and then the city councils run by grand mayors and all the like. It is a total waste of time. First, the error in the bill is the fact that decentralization had earlier been enshrined in the Cameroon constitution since 1996. I would have expected the Yaoundé regime to simply rule on using a presidential decree for it to be applied, and not taking us aback when people are dying in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. I call it a total destruction of the first order. Secondly, if government meant business on this obnoxious bill on decentralization, the bill would have come before the adoption of the budget. Because if I look at the bill, the running of the House of Chiefs, the running of the regional executive assembly, the running of the various structures put in place, all required exceptional budgets. And I know that these budgets stemmed with the buildings, logistics, vehicles, personnel, allowances, and all the like, has not been reflected in the 2020 budget. So you can see what I mean. Therefore, if I look at it critically, if they have to apply this obnoxious bill on decentralization, it means it will not take effect from 2020, and therefore will not help those in the northwest, southwest, or to quell down the current Anglophone crisis. Yaoundé should know that, and know that well and well. On the other hand, we equally have to understand that the bills are very conflicting. We cannot be talking about national unity when the bill is talking about those to be elected for the position of grand mayors in the city councils will be what they call in French autochtone. It means indigenous. You cannot tell me that a man who is from Douala, who was born and bred, for example, in Boya, means he can never be grand mayor, because it talks about autochtone, what they call indigenous. And so at the end of it, you bring a law, you talk about national unity, and at the same time, you are bringing about segregation. So it doesn't move in that kind of bill. The bill is a confused bill itself that reflects a confused state and confused government in Yaoundé. So if we look at it, all of it, you have another clause that talks about the vice president of the regional executive assembly, who will be the one to chair the House of Chiefs, and the vice president of the House of Chiefs, who goes to chair the regional executive assembly. How does it function on earth of this nature? You have another one, interlocutor. Some other funny terms have been put in place. These are distractions to compensate pro-regime supporters and create positions to make them fit fat. I am sorry, it is a total waste of time. What we need now is a bill to act on what we call ceasefire. When we talk about ceasefire, then things can become, and then you put another bill on genuine dialogue, because what took place before is not genuine dialogue. It was a CPDM mini Congress that brought together party allies of the ruling party. And that is why, since that dialogue took place, in the absence of key actors in the conflict, such as Ayuk Tabeseseko, including those in the diaspora, it explains why after that dialogue, conflicts and the tension on in the northwest southwest continues. More people are dying. Since that phony dialogue in September, we have lost more than 213 lives recorded. I mean, those that are recorded. So, and more are still to go if Yaoundé does not sit up with their phony bill being passed in the extraordinary session of the assembly, which they are exhausting another budget for work not done. So, government, if we are talking about a bill of decentralization, is of no use as of now. All we are talking about is that for you to calm down the issue of the tension in northwest southwest, you must be talking about a form of government. And that stems from a genuine dialogue where they should start talking about form of government. If they talk about federation, it could help. But if for decentralization, where GOs and sub-GOs are still there to move over the budget of the grand councils, the budget of the regional assembly, budget of the House of Chiefs, it will still be a waste of time. Thank you.
Mr. Elvis, for your contribution on the program. We take the next caller online. Hello, good afternoon. You're live on the program, please. Just go on with your contribution.
Afternoon, Afrique Media. It's my pleasure to be there. What I have to say is, I'm not sure India and its regime are really aware of what is happening in the northwest and southwest region. It's really a disgrace. People, they don't even think about people's life. If they would think about people's life, they would have not sit there in Yaoundé and start talking about fake news that don't have anything in common to do with the Anglophone. The father went to Paris in France and said something. Why can't he not implement that thing that he spoke in France? What is special status? The country came together as one indivisible countries, and they are to as a entity. And now he's not accepting the other person that come with him. It's showing that I'm not sure he really have feelings of humanity. People are dying because they want their right to be exercised. Anglophone man will never stop this crisis until that statehood is recovered. The earlier he starts talking about federation, the better for him, because he will kill, and at the end, he will see that even though the killing is going on, nothing will ever shake on this country. And I don't know how, whether it's a blood sucker or start talking about bills, this and that. What has bill got to do with Anglophone crisis? The bill is a waste of time, as the dialogue was also a waste of time. That's just to waste Cameroon taxpayers for nothing. The earlier people sit on the table and talk the issue, the better for Cameroon. If not, the next time we'll only hear about Cameroon. That is something else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your contribution on the program. We stay online and get the next caller. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, you're live on the program, please.
Yes. I'm calling from the United States. This is Fonga. I just want to contribute my own little portion. First, I want to really appreciate the man on board on the studio. He is a father of children. Those are the kind of people, when they're talking, we really appreciate what they're saying, because you look Dr. Niguaya, you look Elvis Tayo. These are people, when I sit in the United States, I see the way these people talk. I say, oh God, why can't you carry these people and touch the heart of these devils in Yaoundé? These people sit in Yaoundé, as their people are dying. We are all Cameroonians. No matter whatever the child may demand on you, even give the child a little. And then the child may even think that, okay, my daddy has beaten me all this while. He has beaten me, but he has given me the little that at least can save my life. This special status, this thing they're saying, decentralization has been for 23 years. I just left Boya and came to the United States because of this issue. As a business person, I lose everything that I had. And these people sitting down there and they say life is coming normal in Southwest and Northwest. Do these people really feel the pains of these people? Yesterday, I was following the same program in this Afrique Media, this Breaking Morning here. I saw some two people sitting in the studio. It was a French program. This guy was saying that Pobia has the right to go and crush people. They are still there thinking only to go and crush people and be harvesting, especially CPTM members. These guys should have conscience of what they are doing to human beings. Don't take human beings' life just like that. What are these people done to the regime? What are the Anglophone done to the regime? They should sit down and think. These people are not thinking, especially our own people in the same government. They need to sit down and try to caution their people. Why don't you just call a few people back in the US here, like the people that are clamoring for the secession thing, and Ayuk Tabi is just a stone throw in Yaoundé. From Yaoundé, just go to prison and negotiate this thing. Rather than you moving round and round, you will still come back to the same Ayuk Tabi. They know that they are killing people day and night. So I just want to thank Afrique Media for doing a wonderful job and Equinox TV. These are the two TV. I follow your program every day. And I'm thankful to God that some people are in this studio, like a father is sitting there with you. This man is a father of a children. And Mr. Nick, I appreciate your effort. These people will not listen to you, but they will come back. I pray for them. Let them continue killing our people. The same people that are killing their Cameroonians. But let's watch and see what the thing will go to. They will come to a shame. Thank you. Have a great day.
Very much for your contribution. Thank you also for tuning on to Afrique Media and following the programs. We take the next caller before coming on to our panelist. Good afternoon. Hello? You're live on the program, please.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon, lovers and viewers of Afrique Media. This is Photo Brian calling from the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Yeah, Rita, following the topic of today, I think the government of Cameroon is confused. We have problem in the two English-speaking regions. And one of the biggest problem there is marginalization. And instead of the government to calm down to look at the root cause of the problem and solve this issue once and for all, they are instead trying to bring solutions, whereas they have not looked onto the main cause of the problem. Going in for the decentralization bill that is it the first time they have talked about decentralization? Was it not voted in the parliament about some 10 or 15 years ago or 18? Was it not voted there? And why would they bring the bill again for to be voted in the parliament? This is total madness of the first order. Yes, I say it. It is madness of the first order. We don't need decentralization. What we need is dialogue. Let them come and dialogue with the people. They had the monologue in Yaoundé in the name of dialogue. And now, the decentralization was one of the things that was. How can you come out with a dialogue, then you impose the agenda of the dialogue on the opposite person? Then now today they are talking of decentralization bill so that they won't elect a government delegate or whatsoever they are talking about. I think the Cameroon government needs to sit up and address this issue, because I'm seeing a divided Cameroon than a unitary state. If they keep on with this their hide and see attitude, I'm telling you the truth, the Anglophones are going to suffer in that country. Decentralization is not what people need. We need dialogue. We need dialogue, inclusive dialogue. Let them release all the arrested. Sit down and talk about how the country will look, the way forward for the country. Keeping people under pains every day is not a solution. If the government bench of Cameroon will not sit up to address this issue, I'm seeing a divided Cameroon, and it will pain some people after. Let them stop increasing the pains of the people. Let them stop causing people to cry day and night. They talk of decentralization, they talk of this, whatsoever they may call it. I say no, let them go for inclusive dialogue. Thank you. Happy weekend and happy Merry Christmas in advance.
Merry Christmas in advance to you too and to your families. We get back to you, Mr. Tagua. We had a panelist who addressed you, and equally this other one. You have some remarks regarding that, because he talked of many people being victims and a lot of stuff.
Yes, Rita. First I'll go to the caller before last. I thank God for all the callers. I think they have made some wonderful remarks. But one thing, maybe I start by the last one by saying something. Also, we need to be aware that politics is not a matter of 1 + 1 = 2 all the time. We need to get down to the root of our problems. You know, we are talking about the bilingualism
bill
today. Listen, Rita. Cameroonians didn't have to wait for any bill to get being bilingual. I know, for example, you speak French. And one thing I said in one plateau, that I think that was maybe Equinox.
Yeah.
I said Cameroonians are spatially intelligent, because even up to the villages, you rarely see one Cameroonian that cannot speak 2 languages. The white man will say he speaks one language and one dialect. That does not exist when you talk of intellectual and you go in the dictionary. There's nothing as such as dialect. It occupies the same area of the brain. Cameroonians are extremely intelligent. I have many friends, and we've been seeing it, many friends that when they go to these international communities issues, you know, like the police and all, Cameroonians always hate. Myself, when I was still working with the government, before I resigned in 2007, in Israel, remember 32 countries, all that now, please, Mr. Tagia, lead us, coming from 32 countries.
Because you know French and English are one of the main
because I try at least in the two, you understand, without talking of my dialect. So listen, this is all, as I said, I want to come back to you and to the one before you to say, my friend, you see, you were very touched by saying, and you are praying, you said you are praying for Cameroon. I can encourage you to carry on, and don't be desperate in your prayer. I will tell you why. Cameroon is going through what is called travel. Believe me, Cameroon is going to come out what it is. I always say Cameroon is the most beautiful country in the world. I don't smile, I don't joke when I say it's the most beautiful country in the world, and that's why Satan had to design special weapons against Cameroon. You see now, Rita, we are the ones to understand what is behind. Every country where you have France behind, as a former colonialist, you have these problems. At the moment before the 2016, look at the rates Francophones were sending their children to go for Anglophone school. If you can remember, Rita, Francophonie was dying while the Commonwealth was taking over. It's not that I'm preferring any system or any other one, but in one part you have assimilation. You better be a Frenchman or you are nothing. On the other side, you are one who can respect your culture. That's how is the approach of the Anglo-Saxon. You understand? So if we don't understand that route, we will not understand what Kagame recently said when students were getting out of an university. He said to them, you've got to be clever. When they come, they divide us to steal our resources. Now France take from Limbe. There's been going on exploitation of our petrol. Bakassi was coming, and they found a way to put us head to head. If we don't understand these things, and that's why we say Cameroonians need to get some wisdom and get to prayers and understand we are one. If we don't understand that, we are going nowhere, and know that our real enemy is that one that is sucking our resources. I come back now to say, I said politics are not easy. Because also we can't do anything today, and I shared it with Mr. German again. Forgive me to take this a good friend to share it with you. I said, friend, it is not a matter of loving France or not. It's just like Mr. Tshisekedi, when he made his first foreign visit, it was to Belgium. Not that he loves Belgium, but because he has to involve Belgium in all his foreign negotiations. That's how these things work. But we need to know our real enemy. Now, I will go back to what Elvis just said before. He said, we are in Cameroon like in desperate solutions. Listen, this is right. This is what really Elvis developed that very well. We are like putting up some desperate solutions. Let us sit down looking eyes to eyes. We are Cameroonians and get together to settle our issues. Because the Bible says, without vision, people perish. We need a vision and know that we are all together. There is no way one tribe, one people are going to stand. Because for me, when you people you talk of Anglophones, I say, who is Anglophone today? When you talk of Francophone, who is Francophone? Are you a French person? Tell me, Rita. No, are you an English person? Try to get a visa to go to France. Try to get a visa to go to England.
See how hard it is.
And see all the harness behind. You are a Cameroonian. We are Cameroonians. Now we have an heritage that comes from these two cultures. We should not leave these people who saw a special country in the world. We are only two, Canada and Cameroon. And because they couldn't separate themselves, since Cameroon, it was so charming lady, they said, no, we need it to be there, two of us. Now, if you don't understand that beauty, we let them just separate us, and they're killing us. So please, let us, again, as I said, this issue of bilingualism for me is also, agree with Elvis to say, it's a wrong issue. That is not to settle. You cannot force people. People get to be bilingual because they see the need in the society. And Cameroonians had no problem about that. Up to our villages, Cameroonians are very intelligent. So thank you, Rita, for this time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Tagia. We get the last caller on the program before we end up. All right. With that, televiewers.
Hello to your.
If the caller is still there, you go on.
You know, in the special status.
If not, it is with this that we will say we've come to the end of this edition of Views on the Continent this afternoon. To the viewers, it was a pleasure having you on this 3 p.m. rendezvous every day on your Pan-African television. Views on the Continent runs from Tuesday to Friday at 3 o'clock. And on Saturday, the Pan-African debate. Tomorrow, you'll be accompanied by Regina Sondo for the Pan-African debate. And this, you're going to have more details on the decentralization bill that was passed today. So with that, I say happy weekend and Merry Christmas in advance. Bye-bye.